My name is Elena. I am 32 years old and I live in Boston. My phone rang at 6:14 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. I was already awake. I had been awake since 4:30, reviewing data sheets for a clinical trial presentation. I looked at the screen and saw a name I had not seen in 14 months. It was my father. He never calls in the morning. He never calls at all. Not anymore. I let it ring 3 times. Then I answered. His voice was warm. Too warm. The kind of warm that a salesman uses when he wants you to forget he is selling something. Elena, sweetheart, it's Dad. Listen, we're having a family get-together this Saturday at the house. Your mother is cooking. She's making the lamb. You know the one. We'd love to see you. It's been too long. I held the phone away from my face and stared at it. 14 months of silence. No call on my birthday. No text when I moved into my new apartment. No message when I was featured in a medical journal for the first time. Nothing. But 3 days ago, something happened. 3 days ago, MedTech Quarterly published an article. It was a profile piece about a new cardiac monitoring device that had been approved by the FDA. The device was mine. I designed it. I built the first prototype in my kitchen at 2 a.m. with a soldering iron and a dream, and the article mentioned one very specific number. Genesis Biomedical, the company that licensed my patent, had valued the deal at $74 million over 5 years. That number hit the internet like a match in a dry forest. My father didn't suddenly miss me. He didn't suddenly remember he had a younger daughter. He read the article. He saw the number. And now, after 14 months of pretending I didn't exist, he was calling to invite me to dinner. He was calling because he smelled money, and he thought I was the meal. I used to ache for this. I used to lie awake at night wishing my phone would ring with his name on the screen. But standing in my kitchen that morning, holding a cup of coffee that was getting cold, I didn't feel grateful. I didn't feel excited. I felt absolutely nothing. Sure, Dad, I said. My voice was flat. What time? 7 o'clock. Don't be late, sweetheart. We have something exciting to discuss. He hung up before I could respond. He always did that. He always had to be the one to end the conversation. He always had to be in control. I put my phone on the counter. I took a sip of my cold coffee. Something exciting to discuss. I already knew what it was. I had known for 3 weeks. But before I tell you what happened on Saturday night, you need to understand the Tuesday. You need to understand the worst Tuesday of my life. It was 2 years ago. I had just received news that my patent had been accepted by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. In the medical device world, this is enormous. It means your invention is real. It means you are not just a researcher with a theory. You are an inventor with legal protection. It had taken me 4 years. 4 years of working my hospital shifts during the day and building prototypes at night. 4 years of eating microwave dinners alone. 4 years of rejection letters and failed tests and nights where I sat on my bathroom floor and cried because I thought I would never get there. But I did. I got the patent. And I wanted to celebrate with the people who were supposed to care about me the most. I organized a dinner at my parents' house. I told my mother 2 weeks in advance. I told my father. I told my older brother Marcus and my older sister Danielle. I even told Uncle Ray, who would show up anywhere if there was free food and an audience. I drove an hour and a half from Boston to their house in Westbrook, Connecticut. I brought wine. I brought flowers. I brought a framed copy of the patent certificate. I wanted to hang it on the wall next to the photos of Marcus's lacrosse trophies and Danielle's pageant crowns. I arrived at 6:30 p.m. The house was dark. The driveway was empty. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, thinking maybe I had the time wrong. I texted my mother. "Hey, Mom, I'm here. Where is everyone?" She replied 20 minutes later. "Oh, honey, didn't Marcus tell you? We're at Danielle's showcase. She's debuting her new jewelry line at the Westbrook Gallery tonight. It's such a big deal for her. We couldn't miss it." I stared at the screen. A showcase. For a jewelry line. Danielle had been making bracelets out of beads and wire for 6 months. She had sold maybe 12 pieces on Etsy. She had no business plan. She had no training. But she had a showcase, and my entire family had chosen her bracelet party over my patent celebration. My father didn't even text. He just wasn't there. I sat in that dark driveway for a long time. The wine got warm. The flowers started to droop in the heat of the car. I looked at the framed patent certificate sitting on the passenger seat. I had been so proud of it that morning. Now it looked foolish. like a child bringing home a drawing, expecting applause from parents who were already clapping for someone else. I drove home in silence. No radio, no podcast, just the sound of the highway and the hum of my own thoughts. When I got back to my apartment, I put the wine in the cabinet. I threw the flowers away. I put the patent certificate in a drawer. I never showed it to them. They never asked. That wasn't the first time. It was just the time that finally cracked something inside me. The pattern had been carved into every year of my life. When I was 11, I won the regional spelling bee. The finals were on a Saturday afternoon. My mother told me she couldn't drive me because Danielle had a hair appointment for a pageant that evening. "You understand, don't you, Elena?" she said. "Danielle needs to look her best. This pageant could open doors for her." I rode to the spelling bee with my teacher, Mrs. Whitfield. Mrs. Whitfield sat in the front row and clapped when I won. She took a photo of me holding the trophy. When I got home, my mother was curling Danielle's hair. "How did it go?" she asked without looking up. "I won," I said. "That's nice. Honey, can you grab me the bobby pins from the bathroom?" I put the trophy on my dresser. It stayed there for 3 years. Nobody in my family ever mentioned it. When I graduated medical school, my parents came, but they spent the entire ceremony whispering about Marcus's new car dealership. During the reception, my father shook my hand and said, "Good job, Elena. Now when are you going to find a husband? Marcus is already married. Danielle is engaged. You're falling behind." I had just graduated from one of the top medical schools in the country. I was $200,000 in debt because my parents had told me they couldn't help with tuition. The same year, they gave Marcus $75,000 as a down payment for his dealership. Family investment, my father called it. When I asked for help with my student loans, he said, "Medicine is your choice, Elena. Marcus is building a family business. That benefits all of us." It never benefited me. Nothing they invested in ever came back to me. Not the money, not the attention, not the love. So when my father called that Wednesday morning with his warm salesman voice and his lamb dinner invitation, I knew exactly what was happening. The article had changed my value. For 32 years, I had been worth nothing to them. Now, because a number with a dollar sign appeared next to my name, I was suddenly worth a phone call. I had 2 choices. I could ignore the call and keep living my life, or I could walk into that house one last time and close every open door behind me. I chose the second option, but I was going to do it my way. Saturday came. I stood in my bedroom looking at my closet. I had nice things now. I had a navy blazer that cost more than my first month's rent. I had heels that made me feel like I owned every room I walked into. I had a watch that a colleague had helped me pick out to celebrate the patent deal. I reached for the blazer. Then I stopped. No. If I showed up looking successful, they would see a target with armor. They would be cautious. They would measure their words. I needed them comfortable. I needed them to see the old Elena, the quiet one, the one who never fought back, the one who said okay when she meant "you're breaking my heart." I put the blazer back. I pulled out a faded gray cardigan with a small hole near the cuff. I wore old jeans and sneakers that had seen better days. I pulled my hair into a plain ponytail. No makeup, no jewelry. I looked in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked like someone who hadn't slept well in years. Perfect. I went down to the parking garage. My new car was there, a sleek white sedan, quiet and fast. Next to it was my old Honda Civic, the one I'd driven through medical school. The bumper was scratched. The passenger side mirror had been glued back on after a parking lot incident. I grabbed the Honda keys. The engine wheezed when I started it. The heat didn't work properly. It smelled like old hand sanitizer and cold coffee. It smelled like struggle. I took the highway south toward Westbrook. As I drove, the old feeling tried to crawl back in. That tight knot in my stomach. That voice in my head that sounded like my mother. "Don't be difficult, Elena. Nobody likes a difficult woman. Just smile. Just go along with it. Don't make a scene." I gripped the steering wheel. I am not that person anymore, I told myself. I am a physician. I hold people's hearts in my hands. Literally. I have negotiated licensing deals with corporate lawyers who eat people alive. I have presented to FDA panels that decide whether inventions live or die. My family doesn't scare me. They just disappoint me. And tonight, I am done being disappointed. I pulled into the driveway at 6:55 p.m. The house was lit up like a stage. Every light was on. My father's black Escalade was parked in its usual spot, polished and gleaming. Marcus's BMW was next to it. Danielle's white Range Rover sat at the end. They all drove cars they couldn't actually afford. I knew that now. I parked my scratched Honda right between the Escalade and the BMW. It looked like a stray dog sitting between two show horses. I turned off the engine and sat for a moment. I checked my phone. There was a text from Priya, my attorney. Documents finalized. I'm at the hotel down the road. 10 minutes away if you need me. I typed back. Give me 45 minutes. I put the phone away. I checked my face in the rearview mirror. Neutral. Calm. A blank page. Then I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. My mother opened it instantly. She must have been watching from the window. Elena! She threw her arms around me. She smelled like expensive perfume and roasted lamb. The hug was performative, tight, and theatrical. She held me at arm's length and looked at me with eyes that glistened. Let me look at you. Oh, you look thin. Are you eating? You work too hard. She hadn't asked me if I was eating in 14 months. She hadn't asked me anything in 14 months. Hi, Mom, I said. I didn't hug her back. She didn't notice. She pulled me inside like I was a guest of honor at a party I hadn't been invited to for over a year. The dining room was set beautifully. White tablecloth. Candles. The good silverware that only came out for Thanksgiving and show. My father was standing at the head of the table, holding a glass of scotch. He was wearing his blue button-down, the one he wore when he wanted to look like a patriarch in a magazine. Marcus was sitting to his right, scrolling through his phone. He looked up briefly. Hey sis, he said. No warmth, just acknowledgement. Danielle was across the table, adjusting her bracelets. She wore about 15 of them, all from her own line. She looked me up and down. Cute cardigan, she said. It wasn't a compliment. Uncle Ray was already seated, working on his second glass of wine before dinner had started. There she is, my father boomed. He walked over and squeezed my shoulder. It wasn't a hug. It was a claim. The genius of the family. He had never called me that before. Not once. When I graduated med school, he called me the stubborn one. When I started my research, he called it tinkering. Now I was a genius. The transformation was remarkable and transparent. We sat down. My mother brought out the lamb, the roasted potatoes, the asparagus. It was a feast, a performance. The conversation was aggressively normal. Danielle talked about expanding her jewelry line. She wanted a storefront. Etsy is limiting me, she said. I need a physical space. The brand needs a presence. Her brand had made $4,000 in 18 months. Marcus talked about the dealership. He was stressed. The market is brutal right now, he said. Nobody's buying. The overhead is killing me. He didn't mention that he had fired his best salesman last month for outperforming him. I knew because the salesman had called me looking for a reference. My mother talked about the house. She wanted to redo the kitchen. The countertops are dated, she said. Everyone has quartz now. Granite is so 2015. I ate my lamb quietly. I watched them perform. My father kept refilling my wine glass even though I wasn't drinking. My mother kept touching my arm. Marcus was being unusually polite. Danielle complimented my hair, which she had never done in her life. They were warming me up, tenderizing the meat before the ask. I decided to speed things up. So, Dad, I said, putting my fork down. You said you had something exciting to discuss. The room shifted. It was subtle but unmistakable, like a barometric change before a storm. My father cleared his throat. He set down his scotch. He looked at my mother. She gave him a small nod. He reached under his chair and pulled out a leather portfolio. He placed it on the table and slid it toward me. The cover had a glossy image of a storefront, elegant and modern. Gold lettering read, Castellano & Co. Fine jewelry, a legacy reimagined. Inside were architectural renderings, revenue projections, and a 5-year plan that looked like it had been made by someone who had watched a few YouTube videos about business planning. Here's the vision, Dad said. His voice shifted to the tone he used when he thought he was being impressive. We're going to take Danielle's brand and turn it into something real. A flagship store in downtown Westbrook. High-end jewelry. Custom pieces. Luxury clientele. We've already found the perfect space, Danielle jumped in. It's gorgeous. Exposed brick, big windows, right on Main Street. And I'm handling the business side, Marcus added. Operations, accounting, the whole back end. I looked at the numbers in the portfolio. They were fantasy. The rent on the space was $9,500 a month. The build-out estimate was $350,000. The projected revenue was wildly optimistic. This is a big project, I said calmly. What's the investment needed? My father locked eyes with me. We need $800,000 to get it off the ground. The table went quiet. $800,000. It's a family investment, my mother said softly. She reached across and touched my hand. Her fingers were cold. We're building something together. A Castellano legacy. We'd pay you back, Dad added quickly. With interest. Think of it as a business loan. You'd be a silent partner. Silent partner. I had been silent my whole life. That was the only role they knew how to offer me. And where does the $800,000 go exactly? I asked. Dad rattled off numbers. Build out. Inventory. Marketing. First year's lease. We've got a solid plan, Marcus said. We just need the capital to launch. And you've tried banks? I asked. Marcus shifted in his seat. Banks are too slow. Too much paperwork. This opportunity won't wait. We talked about going to outside investors, Dad said, but your mother and I agreed family first. We wanted to give you the first chance. I almost smiled. First chance. The same family that gave me last place for 32 years was now giving me first chance at spending $800,000. That's very generous, I said. Can I ask a few more questions? Of course, Dad said. He was smiling. He thought the hook was set. He thought the fish was about to bite. You mentioned Marcus is handling the business side, I said. So Marcus, tell me about the dealership's financials. Marcus blinked. What about them? Well, if you're going to run the back end of a new venture, I'd want to know how the current one is performing. The dealership is fine, Marcus said quickly. It's seasonal. Things are tight but manageable. Manageable, I repeated. I reached into my bag. I didn't pull out a checkbook. I pulled out a thin manila folder. I had been carrying it for 3 weeks. That's interesting, I said, opening the folder. Because, according to the Secretary of State's business filings, Castellano Motors has been operating at a net loss for 2 consecutive years. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. That's not accurate, Marcus stammered. Those filings are delayed. They don't reflect. They reflect $340,000 in outstanding debt to your floor plan lender, I continued, reading calmly. 3 missed payments in the last 6 months. A notice of default filed in October. Marcus's face went white. Where did you get that? He asked. Public records, I said. Anyone can access them. I turned to my father. And Dad, the house. When did you take out the second mortgage? The silence that followed was the kind that crushes things. That is none of your business, my father said. His jaw was clenched. It became my business when you asked me for $800,000, I said. You refinanced the house 18 months ago. You pulled $220,000 in equity. The money went to Marcus's dealership and Danielle's startup costs. But neither business generated enough revenue to cover the new monthly payment. You've been late on the mortgage 4 times this year, my mother gasped. Elena, stop it. You're behind on property taxes too, I continued. The town filed a lien in September. My father slammed his hand on the table. The candles shuddered. The silverware rattled. Who do you think you are? He shouted. Coming into my house and your house that the bank owns 80% of? I asked. That house? Nobody spoke. I looked at Danielle. Your Etsy store has made $4,000 in a year and a half. Your projected revenue for the flagship assumes $40,000 a month. That's a 0% increase with no customer base, no marketing history, and no track record. Who wrote these projections? Danielle's lip trembled. I did, she whispered, with help from a business coach. A business coach who charged you $5,000 to tell you what you wanted to hear, I said. And you paid her with a credit card that Dad co-signed. That card is maxed out. Danielle looked at our father. Daddy? My father didn't answer. He was gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles were white. Here's the truth, I said. I stood up. My voice was steady as a surgical instrument. You don't need $800,000 for a jewelry store. You need $800,000 to keep everything from collapsing. The dealership is drowning. The mortgage is slipping. The credit cards are maxed. You've been robbing one account to feed another for 2 years, and now you're out of accounts. I looked at all of them. You didn't invite me here because you love me. You invited me here because you're desperate. You saw the article about my patent deal and you thought, Elena has money now. Elena can save us. The same Elena you forgot for 14 months. The same Elena whose patent celebration you skipped for a bracelet party. That was a misunderstanding, my mother whispered. It was a choice, Mom, I said. Everything you did was a choice. You chose Marcus's dealership over my student loans. You chose Danielle's pageants over my spelling bee. Amy can me. You chose silence over a single phone call on my birthday. The room erupted. Marcus called me ungrateful. Danielle started crying. My father told me I owed them for raising me. Uncle Ray said I had always been cold and difficult. No wonder you're alone, Uncle Ray slurred. No man wants a woman who throws numbers in people's faces at dinner. I let them rage. I let every word land and bounce off. 2 years ago, those words would have destroyed me. 2 years ago, I would have written the check, driven home, and cried for a week. But I had spent the last 14 months learning something important. Their silence had taught me what their words never could. I don't need them. Their approval is not oxygen, it's just noise. When the screaming died down, I spoke again. I'm not giving you $800,000, I said. That decision is final. Then get out, my father growled. He couldn't look at me. Get out of my house. You are no daughter of mine. I've heard that before, I said. But before I go, there's one more thing. I pulled out my phone. I sent a text. 2 words. Come in. 3 minutes later, the doorbell rang. My mother looked confused. My father looked furious. I walked to the front door and opened it. Priya walked in. She was wearing a charcoal suit and carrying a thick accordion file. She looked like she billed $600 an hour, because she did. She walked to the dining room table without greeting anyone and set the file down. Who the hell is this? Marcus asked. This is my attorney, I said. She's also very good at math. I opened the file. 3 weeks ago, I said. My team flagged your financial situation. The default notices, the liens, the missed payments. I didn't call you. I didn't warn you. Instead, I made some calls. My father's face changed. The anger was draining out. Something else was filling in. Fear. I contacted your floor plan lender, I said. The company that finances Marcus's car inventory. They were done with you. They told me they were planning to repossess every vehicle on the lot next month, so I made them an offer. I purchased the note at a discount. Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell backward. You what? I own your debt, Marcus, I said. Every car on that lot belongs to me until the loan is repaid, which it won't be, because you can't make the payments. This is insane, Danielle breathed. Then I contacted the mortgage holder on this house. I continued. Dad, you thought you were dealing with a bank. You weren't. Your mortgage was sold to a servicing company 8 months ago. They were preparing foreclosure proceedings. I acquired the note yesterday. My father looked like a man watching his own house burn down in slow motion. You bought our mortgage? He whispered. I am your mortgage holder, I said. I am the bank. When you told me to get out of your house, you were speaking to the person who owns the paper on it. The silence was total. My mother was shaking. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this to your family? I didn't do this to you, I said. You did this to yourselves. The debt existed before I touched it. The defaults existed. The liens existed. I just bought the right to decide what happens next. Priya placed a single document on the table. It was thick, bound in blue, with a legal seal. Here are my terms, I said. I am taking ownership of Castellano Motors, effective immediately. Marcus, you are terminated as operator. Dad, your personal guarantee on the floor plan is released. You're free from that debt. Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The house, I continued. I am restructuring the mortgage. Lower payment. Fixed rate. 30-year term. You can stay, but the second mortgage is dissolved. The equity you stole from this house to fund failing businesses does not get replaced by my money. It gets replaced by discipline. I slid a check across the table. This is $50,000. Consider it a fresh start fund. It's not a loan. It's the last financial gift I will ever give this family. Use it to pay your back taxes and your credit card minimums. Or blow it. I don't care. But there is no second check. My father stared at the check. He didn't pick it up. And if we refuse to sign? Uncle Ray asked. Then I foreclose on the house in 30 days, I said. I repossess the dealership inventory next week. Marcus files bankruptcy. Dad's credit score becomes a cautionary tale. And everyone at the Westbrook Country Club will read about it in the local paper. I let the threat settle. I knew what they feared most. It wasn't poverty. It was the neighbors knowing. You have 10 minutes, I said. I walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Sprinklers were running on the lawn across the street. A dog was barking somewhere. It all looked so normal. Behind me, I heard arguing in low, frantic whispers. I heard my mother crying. I heard Marcus swearing. I heard the sound I was waiting for. The scratch of a pen on paper. I turned around. My father was signing. His hand trembled. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. When he finished, Priya stepped forward, verified the signatures, notarized the document, and placed a copy in front of each person. The transfer is effective immediately, Priya said. Her voice was clinical. She didn't care about their feelings. She cared about execution. Elena, my father said. His voice was barely there. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. I looked at him. I remembered the dark driveway, the warm wine, the framed patent certificate in a drawer, the spelling bee trophy nobody mentioned, the $75,000 they gave Marcus while I ate ramen and studied cardiac anatomy. You're not my family, Dad, I said quietly. You're people I grew up with. Family shows up. Family calls back. Family doesn't need a Forbes article to remember your name. I picked up my bag. I nodded at Priya. She collected her files. Marcus, I said. He looked up at me. The BMW is a business asset. I need the keys. Are you serious? He said. Dead serious. He dug into his pocket and slammed the keys on the table. You'll regret this, he said. I won't, I said. I've done the math. I walked toward the front door. Elena, wait, my mother called. Please, honey, sit down. Let's talk about this like a family. I'll make coffee. We can, Mom, I said, stopping at the door without turning around. You skipped my patent celebration to watch Danielle sell bracelets. You forgot my birthday. You didn't call me for 4 months. And now you want to talk like a family because I'm the only one who can write a check. I opened the door. The night air hit my face. It was cool and clean. That's not family, I said. That's accounting. I walked out. The door closed behind me with a clean, final click. I walked down the driveway to my old Honda. The scratched bumper, the glued mirror, the squeaky brakes. It was ugly and imperfect and entirely mine. I got in. I started the engine. It coughed and then caught. I pulled out of the driveway slowly. I passed the Escalade and the Range Rover and the BMW that now belonged to me. I turned onto the street. I rolled down the window. The night air smelled like cut grass and freedom. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Ellie, please come back inside. We can fix this. You're my baby. Don't do this to us. I stared at the word baby. She only used that word when she wanted something. When I was a child and she needed me to be quiet. When I was a teenager and she needed me to give up my room for guests. When I was an adult and she needed me to disappear so Marcus and Danielle could shine. I pressed the 3 dots. Block contact. Then Dad. Block. Marcus. Block. Daniela. Block. Uncle Ray. Block. 5 names disappeared from my phone. 5 anchors cut loose. I drove north toward Boston. The highway was empty. The headlights cut through the dark. I thought about what I was leaving behind. A house full of people who only loved me when I was useful. A lifetime of being the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who never caused trouble and therefore never deserved attention. I thought about what was ahead. My lab, my patients, my team at Genesis who respected me. My apartment with the patent certificate that I was going to take out of that drawer and hang on the wall tomorrow morning. Revenge isn't loud. It's not a scream or a fight or a dramatic scene at a dinner table. Real revenge is the moment you stop needing people who never needed you. Real revenge is building a life so complete, so full, that the people who abandoned you become background noise. They become footnotes. Small, faded marks at the bottom of a page nobody reads anymore. I turned the radio on. A song I loved was playing. I hummed along. I checked the rearview mirror one last time. The lights of Westbrook were fading behind me. tiny and dim, like stars that were already dead but hadn't stopped glowing yet. I turned my eyes to the road ahead. The Honda rattled. The heater barely worked, but the engine was strong and the tank was full. And for the first time in 32 years, I was driving towards something that belonged entirely to me. Have you ever had to walk away from the people who were supposed to love you the most just to find out who you really are? Like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And if this story touched something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight.